Hey guys! Tonight, we begin with something a little sootier. The grimy, candlelit world of an older London. A city of grand ambition, burgeoning commerce, and soul-crushing squalor. This wasn't the London of royal courts and grand spectacles. This was the London that had just survived the plague. A place where surviving the day was a small miracle and every new dawn was a whisper of lingering dread. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes, and the first thing you hear is the familiar groan of your stomach. Inches from your face, your brother's calloused foot twitches slightly from some restless dream. Welcome to your one and only room. It's not a bedroom, it's not a living room, it's the room. And it's everything. You share it with 5 other souls, your mother, your father, 2 younger siblings, and that scrawny cat, Bartholomew, who's been around so long you're considering charging him rent. There's no wallpaper, just patches of plaster where something used to be. The ceiling leaks when it rains, and even when it doesn't, it drips something that you've decided not to investigate. The fireplace is tiny, offering little warmth. The air is damp, carrying the faint, ever-present scent of human habitation and the nearby Thames. The floor creaks like it's trying to warn you of your own mortality. There's one window, if you can call it that. So covered in grime and yesterday's fog, it mostly just lets in the sound of cart wheels, shouting vendors, and someone aggressively coughing 3 doors down. You try not to think about the fact that the window opens onto an alley where the butcher dumps his offcuts and a neighbor keeps his goat. Every morning begins with a family-wide shuffle. You dress under blankets to avoid the cold. You swap spots around the wash basin like it's a game of musical chairs with fewer prizes. And someone always knocks over the chamber pot. And yet, somehow, this room is still home. You know which floorboard creaks, which corner drips, and which windowpane rattles just before your neighbor yells about his stolen boots. You know the smell, the dust, the strange sense of belonging. But make no mistake, this room isn't comfortable. It isn't cute. It's a place that prepares you for the day outside by making you suffer a little before you even leave. And trust me, the streets won't be kinder. You stumble out the front door, still blinking sleep from your eyes and clutching half a crust of bread. And immediately walk face first into a wall of choking fog. But this isn't the romantic, candlelit haze they write about in novels. No. This is London's infamous pea souper. And it's like trying to breathe through a coal-stuffed sock. The sky is grey, the street is grey, the air is grey. You can't see the end of your own arm, and you're pretty sure that's a lamppost ahead, or possibly a horse. Could go either way. This fog isn't just weather. It's murderous. Formed by the happy marriage of industrial coal smoke and natural mist, it clings to everything. It seeps into your lungs, coats your throat, and gives your clothes that signature London look, soot-streaked and mildly flammable. You cough. Everyone coughs. It's part of the local soundtrack, like church bells and clattering hooves. Children hack like lifelong smokers. Old men cough so hard they rattle windows. And doctors? Well, they recommend moving to the countryside, which is great advice if you own land and your own lungs. The smell is a complex bouquet: chimney soot, sewage vapor, horse manure, and last night's overcooked cabbage. If perfume makers bottled this, it would be called Eau de Urban Misery. And it gets into everything: your hair, your bread, your one nice shirt you wear to funerals and job interviews. It's all stained with the scent of progress. The worst part? No one's surprised. People go about their day blindly. Literally. Street lamps burn all day long and still don't help. You hear someone trip in the alley next to you, and someone else swear as their umbrella disappears into the mist like a ghost ship. At night, it gets even thicker. The fog curls through door cracks. It blankets the tenements. And if you don't keep a candle lit, you might walk straight into the fireplace, or worse, your neighbour's lap. So yes, the air in Victorian London doesn't just choke you. It brands you, smokes you, and dares you to keep breathing. And you haven't even reached the street market yet. You've made it out of bed, out of your smoke-soaked hovel, and down into the day's grey beginnings. Now your stomach groans. Time for breakfast. Except, breakfast in Victorian London is less of a meal and more of a ritual in lowered expectations. If you're part of the working class, and you almost certainly are, breakfast isn't eggs or toast or a hearty pile of bacon. It's a crust of bread that could double as a roof tile. Maybe some porridge if the oats weren't eaten by the rats in the cupboard. And tea. Always tea. Not because it's comforting, but because it's boiled. And anything that's been boiled probably won't kill you. Milk? Only if you can afford it, and even then, it's a gamble. It might be watered down or worse, preserved with formaldehyde by enterprising vendors who think child safe is a loose guideline. Sugar is expensive. Butter, a legend. Jam? Only if your aunt died and left you some in her will. If you're lucky enough to work in a factory or live near a bakery, you might sniff warm bread on the air. Don't get excited. That's not your bread. That's someone else's breakfast, likely belonging to a man with a hat and a last name on his door. And if you're really down on your luck, an orphan, an out-of-work widow, or just someone who lost their job to a machine, you might find yourself queuing at a workhouse for a ladle of greyish gruel. It's warm. It's edible. That's about the kindest thing one can say. Street vendors might offer fried potatoes or old meat pies, but beware. The meat is unidentifiable, the oil ancient, and the odds of intestinal regret high. Still, the smell is oddly inviting. When you're starving, everything smells like hope. You eat quickly, standing, wrapped in your coat like a cloak of denial. There's no dining room, no soft morning music. Just cold, fog, clanging wheels, and the distant sound of someone already yelling about stolen coal. And now, bellies only half full and spirits not at all, it's time to step into the real monster, the streets of London. Welcome to the streets of Victorian London, a sprawling, chaotic organism, pulsing with smoke, mud, and misery. Every step you take is a calculated risk. And the street doesn't care if you're late for work or just trying to cross the road without being trampled to death. First things first, there are no sidewalks. Or if there are, they're so narrow, cracked, and crowded that using them is a polite suggestion, not a safety guarantee. The main road is a muddy battlefield of hoofbeats, wagon wheels, and ankle-deep sludge. Horse-drawn carts barrel past at terrifying speeds. Carriages clip corners. One false move and you're face down in a puddle that smells like something died in it. Because something probably did. Now, mind the gutters. They run down the middle of the street, carrying all the city's discarded glory, rotting vegetables, dead rats, coal ash, the contents of chamber pots dumped from upstairs windows, and the occasional shoe, foot optional. Crossing them without slipping requires Olympic-level balance, or a very long stick and no dignity. But it's not just the terrain that's out to get you. It's the people, too. You've got street urchins darting around like caffeinated squirrels. Pickpockets brushing against your coat, accidentally, of course. And vendors yelling about eels, kippers, or something vaguely called a meat. Everyone's yelling. All the time. About everything. There are also the coppers, trying to look important while ignoring most of what's happening around them. If someone gets stabbed, they'll eventually wander over, assuming the shift hasn't ended or they haven't been bribed to look the other way. The air, still thick with smog, is now flavored with horse manure and pipe smoke. And in the distance, you hear the bells of St. Paul's, or maybe that's just your ears ringing after someone shouted in your face about chimney soot. Oh, and if it rains, which it does, often, the streets turn into rivers of filth. No one offers an umbrella. No one even looks surprised. You just pull your coat tighter and trudge through it, hoping your boots don't dissolve. And this is just your commute. survive the streets, and you might live to find a job. Or at least something that pays enough to keep bread on the table and rats off your toes. You might have dodged the horses, survived the suit, and even landed a job. But in Victorian London, you can't dodge disease. It's everywhere. Lurking in the water you drink, in the very walls of your tenement, in the air you breathe, and quite possibly in the meat pie you ate for lunch. Illness doesn't knock politely on your door. It sits beside you on the tram, its unseen presence a chilling companion. It sleeps beside you in your tenement, shared blankets offering no protection. And it sneaks into your lungs while you wait in line for bread, an invisible assassin with each desperate breath. Let's start with the basics, tuberculosis, or consumption, as they called it. Because it slowly consumes your lungs, your body, and your will to live. The cough is deep, constant, and comes with blood, a terrifying wet rasp that signals your eventual demise. Everyone knows someone who has it. Most people just keep working until they drop, their last breaths rattling with the disease. Then there's cholera, which arrives through your drinking water like a particularly cruel surprise. 1 minute you feel fine, the next you're vomiting uncontrollably, violently dehydrated, and desperately trying not to soil yourself in public, the shame almost as debilitating as the illness. It spreads fast. Whole streets go silent, the cries of vendors replaced by the moans of the dying. The local pump, a source of both life and death, is chained up too late. By then, the damage is done. Typhoid, scarlet fever, diphtheria, all regular visitors, each with its own brand of agony. Each has its own personality, its own cruelties, but they all share one thing in common: they hit the poor the hardest. If you can't afford a doctor, and you can't, you're left with herbal remedies, often ineffective concoctions passed down through generations. You might try homemade poultices, sticky compresses applied with desperate hope. Or, in the last throes of despair, you might cling to the magical healing properties of hope itself, a fragile belief against overwhelming odds. Of course, there's always laudanum, a beloved mixture of alcohol and opium, sold freely over the counter. You've got a fever? Take laudanum. Cramps? Laudanum. Grieving the death of your 8th child, a heartbreak so common it almost goes unremarked? Double dose. You'll still die, but you'll die very relaxed, your final moments a hazy, pain-free drift into oblivion. And what about the doctors themselves? Well, they mean well. Sometimes. But medicine is still guessing with Latin, using ancient theories to combat invisible enemies. Leeches are still in fashion, believed to rebalance the body's humors. Surgery is done without gloves, the surgeon's hands, often stained with the blood of previous patients, a vector for unseen horrors. Antiseptics are a twinkle in Lister's eye, a radical idea that is yet to gain widespread acceptance. Your odds with a street barber, who might also pull teeth or perform rudimentary amputations, aren't much worse than a trained physician. Disease doesn't discriminate, striking rich and poor alike, but your living conditions help it choose you faster. No sanitation in the cramped tenements. No ventilation, the stale, recycled air a perfect breeding ground. 10 people to a single, tiny room. It's a perfect breeding ground for microbes, misery, and mold. If something doesn't kill you fast, it will kill you slowly, a drawn-out agony that wears down body and spirit. And if you're somehow still upright, still clinging to life, it's time to refill your water. You're sweating through your soot-stained shirt, your body desperately trying to expel the toxins. Your lips are dry and cracked, your throat feels like it's been sandpapered by coal dust. Time for a drink? Sure. But in Victorian London, water isn't your friend. It's a loaded pistol with a porcelain handle, clean in appearance, but deadly in substance. Let's start with the Thames. The lifeblood of the city, a mighty artery that carries commerce and dreams. It's also the toilet, a vast, open sewer where human waste is freely discharged. It's the industrial dump for countless factories, their chemical runoff poisoning its waters. It's the animal graveyard where the bodies of dead dogs and horses are casually discarded. And just for good measure, it's the city's main drinking water source. Imagine a vile stew of rotting vegetables, chemical runoff, dead dogs, human waste, and expired fish, all swirling together, flowing right past Westminster. Now pour a cup from the public pump and say cheers. Don't worry, the water company says it's filtered. That means it's passed through a mesh of gravel, a flimsy barrier against unseen terrors, a dash of wishful thinking, and possibly someone's old boot, discarded and polluting. If you live in a working-class neighborhood, your tap might come from a public pump down the street, shared by 200 neighbors and 3 nearby factories. And the worst part? You might not even know it's deadly until it's too late. Cholera loves bad water, its deadly bacteria thriving in the contaminated flow. So does typhoid, its insidious presence striking without warning. They swim freely through the pipes like microscopic sharks, invisible hunters in the vital fluid. Whole families are taken out within days, a cruel, swift purge that leaves rows of empty homes. A shared bucket, passed from hand to hand, a vector of death. A misused chamber pot, its contents simply emptied into the street. A splash from the wrong pump, its tainted water inadvertently consumed. And your headline material, a grim statistic in the city's endless death toll, if you're lucky enough to be noticed. Bathing? Now that's adorable, a concept reserved for the wealthy. Most people don't have bathtubs. If you're middle class, you might share one with the family once a week, a communal cleansing in a tin tub, the water progressively dirtier with each person. If you're poor, it's a tin tub in the kitchen once a month, if that's the water cold, its cleansing power questionable. And that same water might double as laundry rinse, its grey film a testament to its multiple uses. It becomes dishwater, then finally, a place to soak your aching feet, the last scraps of heat drawn from its weary depths. Hygiene is creative, a desperate improvisation against overwhelming odds. The government starts installing sewers eventually. Thanks to the Great Stink of 1858, when the smell from the Thames was so horrific that Parliament, ensconced in their plush chambers, fled the building. It took stench, a smell so profound it defied all pretense, to make change. Until then, you boil your water when you can, hoping to kill the unseen killers. Or you drink beer, the safe Victorian beverage for children and adults alike, weak, warm, and slightly fizzy with the illusion of salvation. So yes, in Victorian London, you can die from a glass of water. The trick isn't just avoiding thirst. It's avoiding where the thirst takes you, the unseen dangers lurking in every sip. You've tried honest work. It's long, stretching endlessly through the hours. It's filthy, coating you in grime that no amount of scrubbing can remove. And it barely pays enough to buy yesterday's bread, the bare minimum for survival. The water might kill you, its hidden poisons working their way through your system. The factory, with its whirling blades and suffocating air, definitely will, its dangers immediate and unavoidable. And the rent collector, a grim reaper in a threadbare suit, doesn't take IOUs, his demands as relentless as the cough in your chest. So what's left? Crime. And in Victorian London, it's not just an act of desperation. It's a career path, a recognized, if condemned, way to survive. It starts small. Maybe you're a pickpocket, or a dipper, as the slang goes, your hands quick, your eyes sharp. You blend seamlessly into crowds near the markets, a ghost in the throng. You bump someone gently, a practiced, almost imperceptible touch, and vanish with a pocket watch or coin purse before they even realize what's happened. Charles Dickens made Oliver Twist famous, painting a vivid picture of child thieves, but the real-life versions didn't get musical numbers or heroic rescues. They got sent to Newgate Prison, a hellish nightmare of disease and despair, or shipped off to Australia, a brutal exile from all they knew. If you're a woman, the danger triples, the streets a perilous labyrinth. Men leer from dark corners, their eyes glinting in the gaslight. Offers are whispered, promises of a quick coin for a lost soul. Some follow, silent shadows in your wake. Others don't bother whispering, their intentions clear in their hungry stares. The darkness hides everything, faces, twisted with malice or hunger. Screams, muffled by the fog, unheard by those too busy surviving their own night. And sometimes bodies, discarded like refuse, swallowed by the morning light. Even if you stay indoors, you're not always safe. Tenement buildings groan and creak, ancient timber settling, sounding like the tormented sighs of forgotten souls. Rats scratch behind walls, their unseen scurrying a constant, unsettling presence. Arguments erupt 2 floors down, a sudden explosion of angry shouts, and end with the sickening sound of breaking glass or breaking bones. Sometimes, someone vanishes, simply swallowed by the endless maw of the city. And no one asks why, for asking means acknowledging, and acknowledging means caring, and caring is a luxury few can afford. And let's not forget the fires. Chimneys spark, their fiery breath a constant threat. Stoves tip, their precarious balance a moment away from disaster. A knocked-over oil lamp ignites a sleeping mat, turning a precious possession into a raging inferno. No smoke alarms to shriek a warning. No organized fire brigade that arrives in minutes, hoses at the ready. Just neighbors shouting, their voices raw with panic, throwing buckets of precious, often tainted, water into a blaze they can't control, a futile dance against overwhelming destruction. If you must venture out into the inferno, you carry a weapon. Not because of ghosts, though the fog does play tricks, turning familiar shapes into monstrous spectres, but because someone might be watching, their eyes glinting in the dark, and in 1888, he might have a knife. If you're a woman, the danger triples, the very act of walking outside a desperate gamble. Men leer from corners, their forms indistinct in the gloom. Offers are whispered, promises of fleeting warmth for a lifetime of regret. Some follow, their footsteps a chilling echo behind you. Others don't bother whispering, their intentions plain in their hungry stares. The darkness hides everything, faces, twisted by desperation or malice. Screams, muffled by the fog, unheard by those too busy surviving their own night. And sometimes bodies, discarded like refuse, swallowed by the morning light, their stories ended without a whisper. The police patrol in pairs, their figures indistinct in a haze, swinging their truncheons with a practiced, menacing rhythm. But even the constables know certain alleys are best left alone, pockets of lawlessness where their authority holds no sway. Criminals own the night, their movements fluid and unseen, and most wear shoes softer than a copper's boots, allowing them to glide silently through the darkness. Robbers, cutthroats and pickpockets thrive after dark, unseen in the thick fog. And if your route takes you through Whitechapel or Limehouse, notorious for their brutality, you hold your breath and walk faster, praying you don't become the next victim. Not because of ghosts, though the fog does play tricks, turning shadows into lurking horrors, but because someone might be watching, their eyes fixed on you, and in 1888, he might have a knife. You've endured the unspeakable. You've faced the endless hunger, the crushing exploitation, and the constant threat of violence that permeates every brick of this city. You've come to understand that in Victorian London, to live is to endure, to cling to the smallest sparks of hope. But London, too, endures. You see the faces in the crowds, tired, etched with hardship, yes, but also resolute, their eyes holding a fierce, defiant light. You see the sparks of new building, the rhythmic clang of hammers, even amidst the still smouldering ruins, a testament to an unyielding will. The spirit of London, forged in fire and grit, lives on, a phoenix rising from the soot. And as another brutal day ends, and another begins, London, in all its brutal glory and quiet resilience, continues its relentless march forward. Just like you. And so, our journey through the inferno and the squalor of Victorian London comes to an end. If this story stirred something within you, if it gave you a glimpse into a life less comfortable, consider supporting the channel. Your support helps bring these forgotten worlds to life. Like this video, subscribe, and share it with those who appreciate the true, unvarnished tales of history. Until next time, stay safe, and remember the spirit of those who built London, brick by painful brick.